Hello, Steve White, TrickBoy89 for Steve Hearts 89. Well, Alex Kurtzman did an interview recently, or a podcast, and I saw some headlines and I'm like, I don't want to look at it, I don't want to think about it, it's just traumatic, and any Star Trek fan will be traumatized by some of the headlines we got from it saying he was going to be basically producing Star Trek projects until like 2027 and that Discovery has multiple years left in it and just a whole bunch of horrific things. God, where are my notes? Yeah, he said a few interesting things. He basically said you have to balance pleasing the fan base and create different shows for different audiences. That he felt that that's what they were doing. They were balancing by pleasing the fan base and creating different shows for different audiences. No, you're not. And that doesn't work anyway. You have one audience, you cater to them, they give you money, you survive. You try and cater for everyone and different audiences who have no loyalty and no connection to the show. They might come for a minute and then they go and then that's it, you got. That's just, it just doesn't work. That's what they've tried to do with Star Trek now. They've tried to cater to the Star Trek audience, the Game of Thrones audience, the Rick and Morty audience, just a whole bunch of different audiences who have no allegiance or interest or affection for Star Trek. And that's why they've come for a minute, they've looked, and then they've left. So, yeah, okay, that's wrong. And you're saying that you can't hit one group and not others. Well, yeah, you can, but I mean, like it's the same approach. They're just trying to hit everyone, and you can't do that because you end up getting no one. And then the ironic part is he even states that. He says that you can't just try for everyone because you're going to get no one. And I'm like, that's exactly what you're doing. Who wrote this interview? It's like PR. It's like doesn't have any semblance to reality in what he actually does. He's just saying what he's supposed to do, like, oh gee, we are not catering to our audience, we better say we have to cater to our audience, or we can't cater to our audience, we have to cater to everyone, or, and it's just different things come out over and over again. And I mean, he didn't really say anything of substance. He said that he had been on the phone with CBS and they had basically planned out the next 7 years of the show, of Star Trek shows. But then he says that that's all just, ideas, thoughts, where we want to go, what we're planning to do, none of it's set in stone, so it really means nothing. I think the most disturbing thing was he said that Discovery had more years in it. The idea that, well, we've just gone to the future and we've got a lot of stories we want to tell there, basically, when it really should have been the end of the show. They should have ended that show with Discovery disappearing and just being this great mystery and no one ever knows what happened and all the speculation about what could have happened. It would have been far better than whatever they do end up giving us, which is this destroyed Federation, Andromeda, basically. They're just ripping off Andromeda now. And, I mean, if I want to watch Andromeda, I'll go watch the first 4 years of the show because the fifth year wasn't very good. But, what the hell? Why do you think Star Trek fans want to watch Andromeda? Like, they want to watch Star Trek. And I just saw this idiot on one of the Star Trek Facebooks basically saying, oh, you can't tell us that our Star Trek is bad and you don't like it because that hurts our feelings, and we have a right to like Star Trek even if it's bad, and you can't tell us it's bad because that's not a criticism, that's just you being a mean bully. And I had to reply to that. I try not to reply to too many Drekkies because they're usually unintelligent enough. I'll go into that. Intelligent enough to actually argue with you. They just insult you and get defensive. And I just said, look, you can't tell us what to say. We basically are mourning Star Trek. We've lost Star Trek. It's okay for you. You just like generic science fiction, so you can like any show they put out with Star Trek's title on it. But Star Trek fans who like things that are uniquely Star Trek can only enjoy Star Trek. And with that gone, we've got nothing. We've had no Star Trek for 15 years. We have a right to be upset about that, to see the license used to create these other shows for other fan bases and other shows and generic science fiction audiences and the general audience and the low intelligent audience, using Star Trek's name and license. I mean, we have every right to be upset about that. I mean, to be a Star Trek show, it has to have those qualities that are uniquely Star Trek, and anything else is just generic science fiction using the label and using the license. And of course, some people try to argue with that and say, oh, you're just triggered. And I'm like, I'm not triggered. I've heard this argument from a million Trekkies for the last 3 years. You know, oh, we like this show. Don't tell us it's not good. You make us feel bad, basically. And I'm like, you are denying us something that we are entitled to, which is a Star Trek show that actually resembles Star Trek. That's what, you know, we have paid through merchandising for years to have Star Trek, and now it's been taken away, and then we've been asked to continue to support it. We're not. It's failing. And I mean, I have this bizarre person in my comments who keeps saying Star Trek Discovery is a hit. I'm like, based on what? The network ratings in Canada and America are abysmal. 1.6 million people on a major network there's no way to excuse that. Maybe the first episode because it had aired once before, but from now on every episode is a new episode. I mean, what is he basing this hit on? The suggestion that it streams well and that they've brought in a lot of people paying for CBS All Access. Well, if that's true, CBS All Access wouldn't be flailing and rebranding with Paramount, basically, because no one knows or cares about CBS All Access. Whenever they've quoted numbers, they've always combined them with HBO and other things and tried to take credit for the sports boosts that they've gotten from having certain sports ball. I've forgotten. I did see some research about this, and I can't actually remember it though. But there are certain games that they have on that network that get big ratings, and they got a lot of subscribers from that, and they attributed most of that to Star Trek because they have to. And the fact that they don't actually give anyone the statistics means they can do that. They can say it's a hit when it's not. And people will just say, yeah, it's a hit, and then go out and repeat it. And I'm like, based on what? You've got no ratings. You've got no streaming numbers. You've got no subscription numbers specifically for Star Trek, or that you can prove were attributed to Star Trek being on that network. I mean, what are you basing it on aside from the fact that you want it to be successful because you like it and you don't want to be wrong? I'm just so sick of these people. Now, did he say anything else in the interview? You cannot please everyone. You focus on specific groups or specific ideas, and assume not everyone will. That's what we're saying. You just pick a group and focus on that, and so long as they watch it, doesn't matter that everyone else hates it. And you just do that, and eventually you'll get everyone. Really? My God, the wisdom. I mean, why isn't everyone else in Hollywood doing this? Oh, well, some are actually, but that's part of the problem with Hollywood at the moment. And no, I'm not some left-wing nutjob who thinks that diversity is a bad thing and equality is a bad thing, and any black person who has, or coloured person who has a role in a production team or on screen has to be a diversity hire. That is a minimum. There's a small amount of toxic fans out there. And every group has them, but the majority of Star Trek fans don't think like that, and they do miss Star Trek. And it's just so bizarre to hear him talking about, asking him, is he concerned with oversaturation in a desert, a drought of Star Trek, and he's talking about oversaturation because he's got these 5 or 6 shows that have nothing to do with Star Trek other than the licensing and some of the images and member berries and stuff that they use. And he's saying no, because basically we've got all different types of shows and different types of people will watch them. So you're not going to oversaturate any one audience, and you're also not going to satisfy any one audience, and you're not also going to have a large number because you're just catering to little individual groups, which generic science fiction shows have done this in the past and they've never been successful, probably with the exception of maybe the X-Files. I think that's the only other science fiction hit we've ever had. There was Star Trek, X-Files, Stargate, And that's about it. Nothing has really ever been a hit. There's been cable shows that were kept running because they were on cable and they didn't have to have the ratings. And now streaming has sort of done that as well. There's some shows that don't have ratings, but they just are kept on because the streaming services have the money to produce them and they want to for either content, prestige, or ego. And yeah, it's just... I read this article and it drove me a little nuts. But there's a few little things I want to refer to. Also, he said Heather Caden and Aaron Bayers basically were the ones who came to him with an idea. What? Where is... that's not the people. I've read the wrong names. Basically, two people came to him about Janeway, and they had an idea for using Janeway in Prodigy. And that was how that happened. He was saying legacy characters have to be treated with respect. You have to use them in certain... you have to treat them with respect, basically. And basically, two people came to him with that idea, and he went with it. Strange New Worlds, yeah, in the works. What else? He didn't really say anything we don't already know. Rumours of Star Trek Discovery Season 4. Plans for 2027. Can't film Picard because of COVID. Some people are saying it's because of Patrick Stewart's insurance. Yeah, nothing set in stone. Yeah, there's really not much hope at the moment. Oh, also, just the way he double talks. He was saying how Star Trek has always been effective to bring... This is in regards to Prodigy. Star Trek has always been effective in bringing in new people and younger people. That is so about everything we are dealing with in our lives now, as in the show is all about our current lives, which Star Trek's supposed to be about the future, not today. And he said, it cannot... there's no reason why that cannot be shared and enjoyed by younger generations. So he says within the same sentence that, well, we need a kids show to bring in kids because our Star Trek doesn't attract children like all the other Star Treks before it did. But Star Trek attracts kids and always will. So he just... all this doublespeak. And that's probably why I'm having trouble with my notes, because I'm writing down oxymorons and things that just don't make sense and are contradictory, and I'm having trouble working out what the hell I've even written, because it's basically what he was saying. Yeah, it was Heather Caden and Aaron Bayers were basically helping him map out Star Trek through to 2027. I had the names of someone who came to him about Janeway and using Janeway, and I cannot see where I put that person's name. I've lost it. But I guess it doesn't really matter. The point was, he said, well, it wasn't my idea. Someone else had this great idea and we just had to go with it. Now, I don't believe they can do Janeway right. I'm sure they're going to sell out the character and ruin it like Picard. I didn't think they could do that with Picard or would do that with Picard. I thought they'd have some respect and Patrick wouldn't allow that to happen to his character. But he just screwed it so hard. So I guess Janeway, can go exactly the same way. It's really hard to tell. But yeah, so there wasn't really anything in the interview, just him basically saying, no, it's all going well here. We've got Star Trek planned out for years. The shows usually go for 7 years. So the idea of Discovery going for 7 years and going for another 3 years is just 4 years is just horrifying. Unless they drastically changed it and actually made it decent, like perhaps they went to a dimension where Starfleet existed and they were just explorers. Because here's the other thing I realised. Star Trek has been turned into the journey to Utopia, not just being in Utopia and enjoying that and experiencing that and exploring the universe and the human condition. Now it's all about... every episode is, we're bad, we're wrong, we need to get to here, then we get to here, now we're bold to go, and then they go back to the start again and go through that journey again. Star Trek is not about the journey to Utopia. It is about Utopia itself and living in that. And these stupid people who can't grasp that concept or that reality and can't write within that world have to keep dragging it back and reducing it back to this current day bile or whatever that we live in, and say, well, we can't understand anything more than that, so no one else can understand anything more than that, so we have to make it like today and like that so people can understand it, because people couldn't understand Gene Roddenberry's vision and his philosophy for the future and his utopian future, his ideal. That people can't understand that. That's too difficult, so we need to make it just like all the other shows based on today, basically. And they totally missed the point that that's what made Star Trek special, and that's why a large group of people were absolutely obsessed with it for 45, 50 years and paid through the nose for merchandise to keep it alive. And now they've just made it absolutely common, so it has nothing special about it, no one's interested in it, and no one's paying because nobody cares. It wasn't quite a rant, but and it was just supposed to be about the article, but there's so many things annoying me, and getting ready for Star Trek Discovery Season 3 in 2 days is just depressing, and within the COVID world, it's even harder to deal with than it was before. But I'm going to go because this video is really long and I ranted a little bit and I missed a few things that I really want to talk about that he said, but I kind of cover them anyway, but indirectly, because it's the same crap we've been dealing with and the same doublespeak we've been getting from him for years. But I'm going to go because this video is way too long. No one's ever going to watch it till the end anyway, so I don't know why I'm still talking. Oh, because this is therapy, because I've been traumatized by KurtzMan destroying Star Trek. And that's what a lot of these videos are for me, and a lot of Star Trek fans, their channels and their videos, that's what they are. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But just no trolling. It's just, I'm not going to bother replying to these people anymore, unless it's an intelligent question. So if you have an intelligent question, feel free.